BulkLoads Podcast, your number one resource for everything bulk freight trucking.
All right, that's the concept.
Hey guys, Jared Flinn with the BulkLoads Podcast. Got Tyler with me.
What's going on?
Well, we always record these podcasts ahead of time. So last week we weren't able to really talk about the conference. So it was, I guess by the time you're listening to this, 2 weeks ago. But man, we had a blast.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. Almost 500 people were there. It was, I mean, a massive event. And it was just, you know, we were talking the whole time, like everything went smooth and like everybody was just having a good time. And it was just like one big family almost. Like everyone was just, there was no issues and everything went according to plan.
I'm going to have Joe throw up a couple pictures, but this one actually, we had a happy hour the second day. It was after the conference here at the office. And had a couple guys photobomb our podcast studio. But yeah, here's a picture of Chad Sawyer with US Bulk. He's on the left, and Daryl Linder, member of ours, on the right. But yeah, they thought that they would have their own little podcast session.
Yeah,
so.
I saw a few different guys. I know Marty Amale, he recorded a video here in the podcast room. So it was kind of cool that they got to, you know, experience the room here.
Yeah. And then there's a couple other ones I want to share. And this was another one here at the office happy hour. But yeah, this is Larry Hurt, our CEO, which you guys have probably met. And this is 3 Lines out of Dodge City, Kansas.
Yeah. We want to thank everybody for stopping by the office. I heard, I actually didn't get to make it to the office. I was worried about getting everything ready for the next day, but I heard just from some of the team members, there was like 100 people that stopped by.
Yeah, it was packed. It was like, I don't know why it reminded me of like a frat party. Like, because we have a decent sized office, 9,000 square foot, but like the hallways were like jam packed with people on each side.
Trying to squeeze your way through.
Having a cocktail and you're trying to walk through. And it was just super cool. So,
yeah, awesome.
Anyways, we'll be, people are already asking about next year. We haven't finalized dates, but we will. So stay tuned on that. I think that it's going to keep getting bigger.
Yep.
We're going to keep doing more and more things. We got a slew of ideas now. Really good feedback for next year. So yeah, we want you here next year. I think when we're going to keep talking about it on future podcasts. I want to share more pictures as they come in. But just a great time. Again, thank you for all of you all that drove in and took 3 days out of your work week. Man, hopefully you got a 10x value out of it. And Tyler, again, thank you for putting it all together.
Yeah, of course. Cool. Like you said, Jared, our feedback is super valuable. As much as we love hearing, you know, how great the conference was and everything, we still need that critical feedback on what people didn't like about it, what panels they'd like to see instead. So if you can, just reach out, just podcast at BulkLoads if you were at the conference, and you can let us know your ideas, what you'd like to see, if we want to do something different next year, and we'll take that feedback and we'll try to make a couple changes to keep improving the conference. Tickets for next year, we don't have dates lined out, but if you go to bulkfreightconference.com, there's an RSVP button that you can click right now and you can get your name on a ticket for next year. It's not going to charge you anything right now. There's no deposit. There's nothing, really, holding it, but it's just allowing you to let us know that, hey, I want my name on a ticket. Each year that we do this, the tickets go quicker and quicker. So we want to make sure people who want to be there and want to RSVP now, they can do that.
Yeah, hopefully everyone will be able to make it that signs up. But I think it is just getting to where now more and more people want to come, and we'll have to put a cap on it because we really want to cater and be focused on the people that are there. So awesome. Well, moving on. Hey, instead of a truck feature, well, this is a truck feature, but this is a little bit different. This is a photo of, and this is a good friend of yours, right?
Yep.
Wyatt George.
Yep. Yeah, Wyatt George. They are out of Ellington, Missouri. They got a cool little family operation down there. But they really, I mean, they hauled general freight for quite a while, and then they made the switch over to bulk not too long ago. So they hopped over to BulkLoads, and he contacted me. They are now members of Smart Freight, but they came to the conference, and this photo is really cool. He actually came by our office, so we got a cool rolling shot of him driving by the BulkLoad sign. So this is now the cover photo on our Facebook page. So if you could go over to our channel, if you are not following it already, and click the like button on Facebook. That way you can stay up to date with all of our news and posts.
Yeah, I took this photo and I made it my background profile pic on my
nice.
LinkedIn. It's
Yeah,
a
that's cool.
super cool photo. So, yeah, awesome. Wyatt, thank you for doing that. So, well, moving on to the podcast. This is one that I think is going to get a lot of attention. These type of podcasts always do when we're talking about regulations and being compliant and anything regulatory, legal like that. Today, I'm going to bring on. He's a BulkLoads employee. Well, now actually we've carved him out and we have started our permitting business. So bulk permitting, it's another entity now of BulkLoads to serve our clients. And Tanner Batten's going to come on today and just talk a little bit more about what we are doing on that side. We know some of you already have your authority and maybe already have a permitting company, but maybe there's a lot out there that don't, or looking for just a better way to outsource those processes that you're dealing with. So we know that, man, in trucking, there is just a lot of back stuff that you have to do that it just takes a lot of time, probably more than a lot of other businesses. There's just a lot more regulations involved. We know a lot of you all don't like doing that. I personally don't like doing that. I hire that stuff out for me and my businesses, and we want to provide that solution for you. So Tanner's going to come on and talk about that a little bit today. Again, we know people are all over the board, like where they are in the cycle. But yeah, if you are looking for a better way to kind of offload that, if you're already in the business and have a seamless way for someone to take care of that, or if you're just looking to get set up and want to know what that's about, Tanner is the guy.
Yeah, and Tanner, I'm not going to take too much away from this podcast. He'll dive into the nitty gritty. But yeah, just some of the things that we do here now at BulkLoads. We can set up new authorities for guys, whether you're trucking or brokering. We can set up those authorities. We can do your IFTAs. We can do plates and renewals. We can do all that good stuff. Tanner will explain that. I know we have about 30 to 40 guys each week. It seems like sign up and create a free account on BulkLoads, and we talk to them, and they may not have their authority yet. They just say, while I'm looking around, I want to talk to my banker, make sure and get, all these finances figured out before I actually pull the trigger and set up my authority. So this is really the reason we created this, is just so we can cater to our BulkLoads community and provide one more asset to really help these guys out.
And we'll talk about it here at the end, but Tanner has a servant's heart. He is so good at working with people, understanding the laws and regulations, but really breaking it down into simple terms. And that's what you got to have someone like that when you're dealing with this type of stuff. And so
I found out he's a natural speaker.
Great speaker. Yeah, at the conference. Yeah.
He messed up at the conference because I was like, dude, now I'm going to ask you to speak a whole lot more just because you're so good at it.
Yeah, super good. So cool. Well, with that said, here is my conversation with Tanner Batten on bulk permitting. Tanner, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, excited to be here. Got to do a little intro, outro a few weeks ago, but first official full podcast here, but I'm excited.
Yeah, so you all have probably seen some of Tanner's verbiage online on our forums. We have a section called bulk permitting now. We want to talk about bulk permitting today to give you the full scope of the reason why we started it, what we do, and the purpose. Again, I'm going to just say I'm super excited about this, but more importantly, like we've been looking at this for a while, and it really was on our heart to say there's got to be a better way to do this. We know that it's a big issue in the industry when it comes to permitting and compliance and all that stuff. Honestly, I'm going to be quite frank. Like I got like when we first started this is not my gifting. That I like, this is like cringy for me to think about. But you graciously came along. You've been hard at it, and man, it has been exciting just to see this thing take off. And I mean, really take off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I'll say I know this may not be the most exciting topic to cover on a podcast. Won't be putting anyone to sleep by any means, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's a need. And I think, here at BulkLoads, obviously the vision that you've cast from the very beginning is to serve our customers. And on every entity, we're getting questions about this, whether it's the load board, whether it's with insurance. And so there's a big need in the community to have these services, whether it's setting up a new authority, whether it's, the ongoing, upkeep of maybe it's updating, your MCS 150, things like that. It's a need, and there's a lot of confusion out there. And so it's really, my pleasure, our pleasure to begin to sift through some of the noise and help our carriers with this.
Yeah. Before we get started into this, I've mentioned it before, but yeah, if you haven't yet, check out Hammer Down Coffee Company. They were at our recent conference, and man, Justin Sensenig, man, just really love what he's doing there. I'm drinking another cup. This is my 4th cup today. I probably shouldn't be. Yeah, I am like hammered down Jared right now. But yeah, check it out. Joe will put the link in the episode's notes, but definitely check that out. But yeah, back to your point, I want to talk about, most people have seen the evolution of BulkLoads, but so people understand, we really look at a full end-to-end solution, and that's kind of our vision and strategy for this. And one thing we've never touched on has been kind of the before it all, before, we a lot of times we find companies when they get their authority or they're getting started and all that. But one thing we realized over the last 14 years, a lot of people were finding us before they even got to that phase, before they were a company driver or looking to get in the industry, but they're like, hey, how do I even get started here? They're looking on BulkLoads. They saw loads that they were, putting together kind of a business plan for their banker, but they really didn't know the next part. And that's really the vision or reasoning why we started the permitting. We realized that, hey, this is another need out there for our organization and for people in our industry. And yeah, we're going to really dive into that. Anything else you'd add as far as kind of the why behind?
Yeah, I think, something else we talk about is, our services are all geared towards helping our carriers, our customers, focus on driving revenue, building their business. And so if it's, maybe someone could do this on their own, but it's going to take a considerable amount of time, or there may be, some little things they may not know how to do. And so if you can outsource this and let us help you with it, then you can spend your time, like you said, looking at loads, finding and building new relationships, and the things that are going to drive revenue for your business. Because I know nobody wants to be spending the time when you get home from a long day, or you've been out on the road for a few days or weeks, and then get home and hit a pile of paperwork, right? That's not what anyone wants to do. And so giving guys time back with their families when they're not working, and then the time they are spent working, driving revenue for their business.
Yeah. I've been reading this book. It's called The Business Secrets from the Bible. And I'm probably going to keep talking about this. When I get on a book, I start getting these little nuggets out there. It's written by this Jewish rabbi, but he talks about, it's God's creation to bring people in this world and for us to serve each other. But he really talks about specialization and how in our society, you find these specialties and allow people, he always gives this example about, hey, I don't change my own oil. I hire a guy to do that. And I have nothing against people changing their own oil, but he talks about, like, as you evolve and you want to be special at your trade, you want to master your trade. And he talks about, hiring people to solve these processes for you while you can focus on your process. And I always just want to reiterate, that's kind of our goal with this. We want you to focus on growing your business, running your company, allow us to handle these specialization processes that you probably, quite frankly, don't know that much about. So why spend all that time when you can allow somebody else to do that for you?
Yeah, hit the nail right on the head. That's great. Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about this before you check out, because I know listeners on here, maybe you already use another service, or you have a business you've run for years. We're going to actually talk about ongoing things with permitting. So this isn't just new authorities. But yeah, let's start at the very beginning. For someone that is getting into the industry, maybe he's a company driver or just wanting to start a trucking company, walk through that process of what they need to do, but even what we can do to help them. We can't do every process, we've realized, but there's ways that we can actually point you to people that can get you in every step.
Exactly. Yeah, no. So kind of starting from the beginning, I think a lot of it is educating clients as well on what the process is going to look like, what all you're going to need, how long it's going to take. Because I think sometimes guys, are a bit surprised.
How long does it take?
Well, like if you wanted to start up a new authority, I would plan on 3 to 4 weeks. It could be longer, but even just with the FMCSA, your MC number, for example, has to sit through at least a 21-day dispute period. So I've had guys call in, hey, I want to run over the road, get going next week. And I'm like, whoa. don't do that. Or if you are going to do it, don't tell me because you're not going to be authorized to do it. And so, it definitely takes some time. And then also a big piece of it is insurance as well.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it, I think, is educating on what are those startup costs going to be, right? Because we can help you set up the authority, but you got to have, a plan for insurance, which usually is going to have a down payment. You should probably have some operating expenses set up for, of course, truck maintenance. Fuel is a biggie, and so I look at it as a lot of it being education, and just, hey, here's the process. Here's, how long it's going to take. Here are the stages. But if you look at actually getting into the weeds a little bit, the first process is going to be setting up some type of business entity.
Yep.
Now, again,
That's got to be with your state.
Right. It's got to be with your state. And this is where, a part that we don't help with, but we can advise if need be. But, deciding, do I want to be a sole proprietor just in my name? Do I want to set up an LLC, or maybe a corporation? And again, I won't get in, too into the weeds on each of those, but we usually recommend some type of, business entity just to separate yourself from a liability perspective. So a lot of our carriers end up doing an LLC, setting up a business, keeping everything separate, just, to protect assets, all that stuff. That's a good step. So you can usually do that on your home state's Secretary of State website. It's really not a complex process, but we also have, attorneys and other people we can refer to if you're worried about getting that set up the right way.
I want to chime in real quick, but I want you to keep going down this. But like one thing I would advise over the 20 years I've been in trucking, like if you're thinking about a business name, which I know that requires some thought, like try to do something unique and try not to be like one letter or like try not to be A&D trucking. I know like for search wise, for pulling up, like it's confusing. If that's what you want to use, fine. But like just one of my recommendations, like try to come up with like a full name, something clever, something unique, somebody else that's not using it. I'm sure there's a lot of B&B truckings out there. Nothing is B&B trucking, but if you're thinking about B&B, maybe think about something a little bit different, and even just like the searching, like when you put that "and" in there, like, is it the symbol or is it written out? Like I just, over my years of searching for trucking companies, writing it the right way, there's just always a lot of confusion. If there's a way you can do this when starting an entity at the beginning, figure out just a clear, clean name that's going to be easy to say, easy to write down, easy to search.
And going to look good on the side of a truck as
Exactly.
well. I think one quick side note, that's been the coolest thing is seeing, I actually got a picture just last week of one of the DOTs that we set up, one of the very first ones, seeing that the guy's logo, awesome. Seeing his DOT number on the side of the truck. And so just cool to see, starting this up and then actually seeing it out there of like, this guy's ready to rock, and BulkLoads was able to help him out with that. So that's pretty cool to see it actually come full circle there.
So get your LLC or whatever entity set up through the Secretary of State.
Yep. And then there's a process of applying for a federal tax ID number, an EIN number. Again, simple process. Won't get into that too much. But once you have those two things, then you can go through and apply for a DOT number. And this is where we can take over and start helping. And so this is where, it's going through with the FMCSA, filling out the forms. And I will say this is, you can change things later, of course, but it's much simpler if you get it right the first time.
Well, and talk about that. We've had some companies, I think, that haven't gotten it right, and then you've come in to fix it. Or maybe they've used I'm not slamming other compliance companies, but somebody messed stuff up. But talk about that experience.
Yeah, I think what I'm learning every single day, and for myself as well, is asking as many questions as possible. Don't assume anything. This is what I tell myself, because I want to fully understand what someone's operation is going to look like. What are they going to be hauling, right? You got to put that on there. Are they, authorized for hire? Are they hauling exempt commodities, which we get a lot of on the bulk side of things?
Yeah, that's good.
There's also a lot of things that people think are exempt that aren't actually exempt. That's a whole nother story for another podcast. Or are they private? Maybe they're moving their own product, and maybe you can be all three. And so that's a big one, is getting that right, getting the products, and the commodities, what you're going to be hauling. Probably shouldn't just put, especially in our world, just general freight. That's a little more on the dry van side of things. And so, making sure you list everything out, that's also going to help you for insurance. And then, also determining, do you need an operating authority? So are you staying intrastate or are you going interstate, right? So are you staying within your state's, boundaries, or are you going over the road for hire, right? And so getting those things set up. And so by asking those questions, we'll be able to determine, does someone need an operating authority or an MC number? And the good news is you can always apply for that later on. If you're just starting out, small operation, staying, within your state, you can always apply for that later on. But going through that's a big thing. If it's a DOT number, usually you can apply and it'll go active within a day or two online. But it is the MC number that there is a 21-day at least period. But that's also a chance for people to get their proof of insurance on file with the FMCSA, and then filling out another form which just designates process agents, which we can do for you as well.
Because talk about that, because you have to have your insurance filed, right? To have online.
Yep.
So you have to get your insurance first, but don't you have to have your DOT?
Yeah, exactly.
So chicken and the egg, which is?
Yep. So the first thing to do is to apply for the DOT number and the MC number. And then, you have up to 90 days to get things on file with the FMCSA, but use that 3 weeks that you can't run, for hire over the road to establish a business plan, line up customers, and then most importantly, shop your insurance, right? Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit biased, but give us a call here at Bulk Insurance Group. They go hand in hand, and let one of our markets give you a quote. And if you're with us, all I have to do is walk down the hall and we'll get your insurance filed with the FMCSA, right? So it's as simple as that. And I think there's a lot of, it works really well together. And that's another big reason we've started this, is just keeping it simple. It's all under one roof, right? All the guys you're talking to. And like I said, I can just walk down the hall and it'll get filed the right way the first time.
Hey guys, one thing we heard over and over at our conference, the people that did best in this industry learned how to provide a service. It was service, service, service. That's how they stepped ahead and got ahead of their competition in this industry. So my encouragement for you today is figure out how you can provide a better service. I don't want to be blunt when saying this, but just picking up a load and delivering a load, a lot of companies can do that. They can transport, but how can you make that experience better for your customer? How can you keep them updated? How can you show them that you care for this and you're providing a service above all others? At BulkLoads, we have a lot of different services that we offer to allow you to basically provide a better service to their customers. Our TMS system will allow you to give updates and send updates and find out tracking amounts. Our quick pay option helps you get paid quicker, but overall, figure out a way to serve your customers better. Obviously, you've maybe been listening to this podcast for a while. We always talk about that. But yeah, my encouragement for you today is, what is just one thing that you can do today to make a difference? What's one thing that you can do to set yourself apart from others out there and show your customers that you can provide a better service to them? Hope you enjoy this. God bless. What has surprised you, or what has been interesting, something you didn't realize that you're running into a lot?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the initial thing is just, we knew it was a need. I didn't know it'd be as big of a need. I mean, You're talking the first day I posted on the forum, I had a guy call me within 20 minutes saying, hey, can you help me with this?
Well, I've seen, I don't even want to say like every day, like a slew of requests on, new authorities, but just existing. There's a lot of confusion, I guess.
Yeah. There's a lot of confusion. I think, I'm still learning more each and every day. There are great resources, but there's maybe not a handbook or something that just has every single thing, or if it is, the book would be a mile long. And so I think I've been surprised by just the overwhelming response. And then also just, with certain things, plates, for example, apportion plates, they can be a bit of a pain getting them in some states, but just how different the process looks in each state. And so that's something we're working, and a problem we're working through as well of solving is since BulkLoads is a national and even international, right? We have a lot of people up in Canada as well, has a market and has clients all over. How do we serve them effectively when certain things are based on an individual state's jurisdiction and rules and regulations are different?
Yeah.
And so we're really focusing on, things that are the same across the board and starting with things that we know we're going to do a great job with. So for example, anything with the FMCSA, that's the same process regardless of which state.
Yeah. Because in just one example, Texas.
Yep.
You have to physically be present.
Yes, to open up a new IRP, International Registration Plan, for apportion plates, you have to be in person in Texas. There's another state where you have to submit by mail or be in person. In 2024, you have to submit by mail. And so there's nuance there. So there will be some states that maybe we're not able to do as much, but our goal, whether you're a paying customer or not for these services, right? Education, pointing you in the right direction. And so there may be some people, hey, we can't help with that, but here's what you need to do, or here's a service who can.
Yeah. So I asked what surprised you, but like, what are the mistakes that you're seeing, reoccurring mistakes over and over so far?
Yeah.
With companies.
Yeah, it's a good question. So compliance. I think there's times when, again, maybe the right questions weren't asked. So for example, filing quarterly IFTAs, right? Is that truck running diesel or are they running an alternative fuel? That's going to change the game. And I know that's super nuanced, but if you don't ask that question, someone's going to be paying way more in fuel taxes, potentially, or it's going to be way harder to go back and amend those things after they've been filed. And then same thing, are they, is a carrier hauling their own product, or asking those questions, because once you file it a certain way, or if you don't submit all the forms, like for example, with that MC number within the 90-day period, your application is void and you're going to have to go again, pay the fees again. And so I think, having a good idea of asking the right questions to make sure things are set up right the first way, the right way the first time, and then also, just making sure that what all is involved and the timelines involved, so you're not having to redo or repay a fee.
So when you're, say, somebody brand new, you're getting them set up, are you on the phone with them kind of going through this checklist of, are you running alternative fuels? What commodities are you hauling besides general freight?
Yep. Yeah. What are you going to be hauling? Where are you going to be going? Whose product is it? Even asking, of course, we're dealing mostly with, of course, bulk and just, trucks and trailers, but there are some times where, the requirements are different for a box truck or so, so asking all the right questions, to make sure we're setting things up the right way. And of course, we're going to deal with our carriers and the people who are hauling our bulk commodities mostly, but there are just some nuanced situations. And so it's just asking the right questions because, and it goes back to what you said about the business too. If you've already set up a business and it wasn't set up the right way, or you want to change it, it's just much more of a process to go back, refile it with your state, refile it with the FMCSA, maybe even the IRS. And so, yes, things can change, but just much simpler if you get it set up the right way the first time. And we're happy to advise or point you in the right direction of the correct advice, or someone who can, if we can't help.
So we get everything set up the right way. Person's in business, he's running. Talk about the ongoing filings that motor carriers have to do. Again, most of our experienced guys know this, but if you don't know, and maybe you're listening to just learn more about trucking, like there's ongoing filings that have to be done and have to be done correctly. Talk about that.
Yeah. So the big one that's, in everyone's mind is IFTA, right?
Which stands for
International Fuel Tax Agreement. So if I'm buying all my fuel in Missouri, and then I'm traveling to a bunch of other states that maybe have a higher fuel tax, right? At the end of the quarter, I need to file how much fuel I bought, the miles I ran, and then that's going to determine if I potentially owe to another state that I ran in, but that I bought my fuel here in Missouri. And so that needs to be filed every quarter. So, after the first quarter, for example, ends, you have until the end of April to file your Q1 IFTAs, right? And so if you're running an ELD that keeps track of everything, it can be a simple process. But we do have some people who are pre 1999. They're running an older truck, or they don't have to run an ELD, and they're keeping paper logs or keeping paper receipts and things like that. So that's a big thing. You don't want to get behind on that at all. And then there's some others that are more annual.
On the IFTA though, I want to talk about the annual ones too. But like, how does that work though? So if we're doing that for them every quarter, certain dates, they will send you the documentation or paperwork, and then you file it.
Yep. Yes, exactly. So ideally, hopefully I'm not getting too many calls on April 31st or whatever the last day to file is, but it's the nature of the beast sometimes. And so, if I get, maybe it is access to someone's ELD and that information prints out a pretty report, it's easy. Or maybe it's just scanned copies of fuel receipts or trip logs or just mileage. There's a variety of ways. Obviously, certain ways are going to be a little bit easier, but we recognize that we want to be able to help carriers no matter how they're filing, especially if they're not required to have an ELD or not required to invest in anything like that. And so if I have that, then I can go in, calculate what they owe, or if they get a return, and then invoice based on that so that we can actually pay that on their behalf.
And we have a system already set up where clients that are already using us, you will reach out to them, or they know how to communicate with you every quarter so they don't forget about it.
Right. And that's our goal too, is, we have a great system that we utilize for reoccurring, whether it's invoices, notices that we can just set and forget. We won't forget you, but that we can put into place, and that it will remind us as well as you. And we just add existing and new customers onto that as we go along.
Nice. Talked about IFTAs. What are the other ones?
Yeah. So another one is going to be UCR. And so that's another annual one. It's really not super complicated, but it's another one that if you haven't paid it, if you don't have it filed, it can come back to bite you. And that's really just kind of a, rather than filing your insurance with every single state, it just kind of provides, hey, I have a proof of insurance, things like that, in every state across state lines. It's just I say newer, but it's something that was put into place just to make it to where your insurance company didn't have to file in every single state.
And I didn't know that one.
Yeah. And it's it's kind of one of those that can fall by the wayside, but if you're crossing state lines, you need to have UCR. And I can always look and check if you've, been up to date on that as well. And then there's the 2290 tax, which is if you're over, 55,000 pounds, gross vehicle weight, that you file that on an annual basis.
That's usually in July, right?
Yeah, usually in July. But if you buy a new truck, you need to pay that, at least a prorated portion, within 60 days, especially if you're getting plates. And so that's the other thing where that's usually whenever you're going to have to provide proof of that, is whenever you're getting plates in your home jurisdiction.
And that's paid to FMCSA?
The IRS.
IRS. Okay.
Yep.
So, typically if a driver, say he doesn't know to do that online, he goes to get his plates.
Yeah, you're going to need, it could be like personal property tax or anything else, but like you're not going to be able to get your plates.
You're going to want to see proof that you've paid that to the IRS before they give you plates.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and again, this is something that we'll be able to help guys with, and it's something that it is a little easier because it's once a year, and you do need it to renew your plates, things like that. So it may not be one that falls to the wayside as much, but it is another cost for carriers and another thing to keep in mind and plan for and budget for. But it's another thing that's on an annual basis. And then one other thing, which I could mention kind of with IFTAs as well, but there are certain states, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, that they also have a separate mileage tax. And so you can buy temporary permits there, or a lot of people end up getting, an annual permit, but you have to file that separately from your IFTAs if you travel in those states. And even if you're set up on an annual basis, even if you don't drive a single mile in those states, you still need to report and say 0.
Wow.
So,
did not know that one either.
Right. So there's nuance there. And again, hopefully I'm not putting anyone to sleep here, but
no, this is super interesting.
But the goal is that we can take care of this for you, that we set up a good process and system to remind you and to make sure that these things don't get missed. Because we know there's a lot of hurdles, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of things in this regulated industry. And so we want to be a source of not only education, but also of service and helping our carriers, so that way, again, back to the heart and the mission, you can spend your time driving business or with your family.
Yeah.
Right. That's our goal. Yeah.
Yeah. You're on the phone a lot. I mean, I can hear you on the phone. The other day they were doing some reno in your office. So you're closer to my office, and I could hear like constantly talking to carriers, but like you get a lot of questions, people calling, just, they don't know.
Yep.
And I just want to say, like, you're not charging for knowledge. I mean, from what you've learned, I mean, you're giving a lot. Like, if you have a question, I guess is what I'm saying, call Tanner, and he can, if he doesn't know the answer, he can go find that for you.
Yep.
And like you said, keep asking questions.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Maybe you're new, you have a lot of questions, call Tanner. Maybe you've been at it for 5 years, but some stuff still doesn't make sense. Or maybe you don't like the way something's running or whatever. I would just encourage you to call, because, man, you've been super helpful, been very patient walking people through. And I think that really needs to be said.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, like, I will just say I'm learning more each day. And I think based on what comes in, it helps us determine what are the future services that we need to offer and start to help. And then, like you said, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find it, right? I either can ask, a trusted mentor, a resource that we have here, or I can spend time, researching, or I will call the FMCSA on your behalf and get to the answer for you. And so that's the goal, because it helps me learn for the next person that's coming up. And then, of course, like, we just want this to be a service to all, to all of our carriers and people using every entity, whether you've been on the load board for 10 years or you just signed up. We want to be a voice of education and a voice of, reason, and just cutting through the noise, for our carriers.
One thing, and this is a question I have for you, explain the whole, because you have to have drug and alcohol testing done, right?
Yep.
For any drivers or whatever. I mean, I have a Class A CDL. I know that I, have to have a DOT physical if I'm driving for a company to do that. And I think, that's got to be done every year, 2 years. But I mean, maybe you don't know this stuff, but like, talk about what are those. We talked about the getting the trucks registered and all that stuff, all that compliance, but like, from the personnel standpoint, what all has to be done to make sure that you're up to date and compliant?
Yeah. And I look at it kind of as two sides of the same coin. We have the permitting side, which is what, we've been talking a lot about. And then you have the compliance side. So that could be everything from, within the first 18 months of your new DOT, authority, you're probably going to have a DOT inspection. All the way through to, like you said, annual physicals, getting signed up with a drug and alcohol, consortium for testing, things like that. And I'll say, although right now we're focusing on the permitting side of things, we do have a local contact that we're partnering with that can help people get signed up for drug and alcohol testing, can have a resource to find someone to give you a physical. Even though they're based here, they can help carriers all across the country.
Weren't you going to look into med school? And,
looked at it. I think we're going to still refer that out. So that's kind of how it is as of today. And I think long term, we've talked about, our vision is to be a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And so I think long-term you could see, no, I won't be going to med school, but maybe at one point we do partner with
bulk DOT physicals.
with a physician who can do physicals, having maybe in-house or a closer partnership for drug and alcohol testing. So that way we truly can be A to Z, everything from starting your business to staying compliant, to growing your business, and that kind of funnels into all business units, and entities as well.
Yeah. There's a lot.
There's a lot
to cover. And I think for a brand new company or wanting to get into it, you don't realize that all these back end things that have to be done and done right to stay in business, to be compliant, is crucial. So, One thing that maybe our audience doesn't know and want to talk about, but we also do, carrier authorities, but also broker authorities.
Yep.
But we have a full turnkey process. If you're looking to get your brokerage authority, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the reason why.
Yeah.
But we're a one-stop shop. We can provide everything from getting your authority, your insurance, your surety bond, all that. Talk about that.
Yeah. And so, that's been another big thing, a request is getting set up with a brokerage authority. And I know Jared's going to talk about the why, but, we've had carriers who, are operating a business and they're growing. They see more opportunity to expand. And so the process is similar on the application side of things, right? It's the same form you fill out. That's just checking some different boxes as far as, brokerage, and then, the requirements are a little different. Rather than, liability insurance, $750,000 liability insurance, you need a $75,000 surety bond. And that's something we can write as well on the insurance side of things.
What exactly is a surety bond?
So basically that's what, what someone can file against in the case of a non-payment or something like that. And so it's just providing insurance that, if you open up shop and something were to happen, which, we hope never does.
If you don't pay your bills, somebody can file on that bond.
Exactly. If something were to happen, someone goes under, goes bankrupt, or can't pay, then that bond is there to, to kind of protect the carriers that they're working with, and they can file against that.
Yeah. I wanted Tanner to bring this up, or I brought it up to talk about, as we're seeing the evolution of trucking and moving on, we see the need for carriers to get a brokerage authority. And, the perfect example we see, say you're hauling for a big ag company, big co-op, big grain company. They want to give you more loads, more loads than you have equipment for, but other guys that can handle those loads. In order for you to take those loads and give those subcontract or broker those guys, you have to have brokerage authority. Otherwise, it's illegal or it's considered double brokering. I think the terminology with double brokering, some people get it confused.
Yeah.
They think double brokering is one broker giving a load to another broker, giving it to a carrier. That actually is called co-brokering. And I'm not in it. I don't want to get in a debate online on people on that. But if you are out there and you want to grow your business, but without growing assets, if you have a client that they say, man, we love the service that you're doing. We want you to, we want to be able to give you more loads, but you don't have the equipment to do it. You can get those loads, but you have to have a brokerage authority to do that. Yes. And we've seen more and more companies doing that. Love it or hate it. If I get flack on it, so be it. But I'm just being honest. If you want to grow your business and do that, you have to possess a broker authority. We can help you get that brokerage authority. We see a lot more companies now. They run everything through the brokerage authority. The brokerage gives it to their trucking company, and then they broker out to the other ones. If you do that, you are, through the FMCSA, DOT, you are legal to do that. Yep. But yeah, if that's something you want to pursue, not everybody wants to do that. And it's not for everybody, but we want to offer that service as well. So we have a turnkey solution for getting brokerage authority.
Yeah. And one note I'll make on that, there are some out there who can have it carrier and broker on the same DOT number.
Oh, they can?
I would say, I've seen it. I would say best to have a separate entity. You wouldn't want there to be anything where maybe your insurance company would cancel insurance, or, there would be any kind of extra liability on your trucking company from the brokerage authority or vice versa. So best to set up a new business unit, file separately with the FMCSA, have it separate. That way you kind of cover all your bases there. That in my experience is the best way to set it up.
And I think it's just good business practice. I think if you're maybe contemplating, growing your business or, handling more loads, get the brokerage authority, get set up where you can get more loads, broker it out. That way you're not buying more equipment and then all of a sudden finding out the loads aren't there. They're given to somebody else. Yep. We know a lot of these contracts people deal with. Well, there's really no contracts. It's a lot of times these loads are on a week-to-week basis, but in your business, it could be the right idea to look at growing without adding a lot of equipment out and then being short. So,
and there's really, compared to what's required of a trucking company, there is less, maintenance as far as quarterly filings. You still have to do the annual filings. You still need to pay your surety bond every year, UCR, things like that. But it's not keeping track of every mile, to file every quarter. So it could be something, and we've seen this too, that guys just want to have for when they need it, for their back pocket, or they're saying, hey, in the next 6 months to a year, if you get it set up before, have it all ready to rock, that's a good way to go, because you never know when something could turn, or something could really, an opportunity could come your way. And so best to have it all set up, because again, we are a turnkey operation, but we also are limited to the speed of how they process applications. And so probably looking at 3 to 4 weeks minimum, could be a little longer on the brokerage side of things to get it up and running.
Yeah. Awesome, Tanner. I've enjoyed this. Just to kind of conclude and wrap all this up, though, for our listeners who we love dearly and care about, what would just be some recommendations, even if they're not going to call you or use us or services, what would be the best advice you would give them just to make sure that they are staying compliant and doing things the right way?
Yeah.
Business wise.
Yeah. I think, number one, like you said in the beginning, don't be afraid to ask questions. So if you're looking at one side of it being new authority, take the time to research, right? Yes, we obviously want to grow our business as well, but there's times where maybe I will advise someone, hey, maybe wait on this, And so take the time to research, to know the true startup costs, and make sure you're in a good spot before going out on your own. I think that's good. And we want to advise our clients, to do what's best for them in that scenario. But take the time, look at all the costs, look at everything that's going to be required so you can make a good decision, and you can set yourself up for success in the long run, even if it means waiting a little bit longer to do so, to maybe secure more capital or save a little bit more. That way you're good to go and you can have some peace of mind. And then, whenever it comes to, just staying compliant, whether it's the FMCSA, whether it's your, more local state authority or DMV, DOT, things like that. Again, don't be afraid to ask questions so you can do it the right way. Better to ask. I know, the saying, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. That does not apply here at all. It's completely opposite. So better to ask, go straight to the source. And you may get kicked around a little bit as far as, well, I don't know, this person may know, but take the time, and we can do it for you, to ask the right questions, to make sure that you're doing things the right way, because way better to take extra time or be a little slower than to just go and then be put out of, operation for a few weeks, or have a fine or something that's going to show up on your record.
Yeah.
And so
those just give me the heebie-jeebies. I'm always worried, making sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it's part of the process. It's there for, safety. It really is, but take the time, ask the right questions. And, I think that's that at the end of the day. If I don't know something, I'm going straight to the source to make sure that what I'm doing is right for our carrier, or that I can give them the right information, not just a Google search. Like, let me call, ask the people who should know, and then get the correct information.
Yeah. So if you're on BulkLoads right now, just go to the permitting tab and it'll pull up all the information to get you in contact with Tanner. Joe on our podcast site, he'll actually put the link in the episode notes. So if you're watching this from any podcast, you should be able to drop down in the episode notes and click on bulk permitting, and it's going to take you right to Tanner. Man, take advantage of this resource that we have put together. We're super excited about it. Tanner, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I think, man, I'm super excited for this. God bless you for doing this and not me. I would not be good at this. But yeah, before we get out of here, what do you think of this new backdrop?
Man, this is the first episode with it, and I think it takes things to a whole new level. I mean, the quality, the scale, everything. I mean, it's for real in here now.
I thought you were going to point out we don't have a license plate. We don't have this thing.
We need to bring it up to compliance, but we'll get there.
We don't have this registered yet. So awesome, Tanner. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you. God bless.
Yeah.
Tyler, we covered a lot in this podcast, and I just want to highlight a few things, but we can now set up also broker authorities.
Yep.
And the surety bonds, everything you need to do to get set up with a brokerage. That's another one that Tanner can do. We know that's a big one right now because there are companies, maybe you're in that process where you're running 5 trucks or a couple trucks, but you have more business coming at you.
Yep.
You want to still get that business and then subcontract that out. To do that legally, you have to have broker authority, and we can get that set up. It's a really turnkey operation, but I thought that was just a one to really highlight for people maybe that are already in the business.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super useful for these guys. And we see that all the time with our members, especially like RC Trucking, starting Reading Transportation. But whenever these carriers, they start their brokerage service. So if you're interested, get in contact with us. You can contact Tanner directly at 417-262-5511, and we will put that number in the show notes as well, so you can drop down there, give him a call or shoot him a text. You can also visit the permitting tab on the BulkLoads app or on the website, and you can submit a form there, what you're interested in, and Tanner will contact you right away.
And at the very end, we talked about it. Tanner is just a wealth of knowledge on this. If you just have questions, his advice is free. If you have a question about just something doesn't look right, or I don't understand this, call Tanner up.
Yep.
And he is just such a kind guy. I can't stress that enough. And he will walk you through. There's probably no silly questions, nothing. There's a lot of stuff I'm still learning, and I've been in this business for 20 years because I've never dealt with the compliance stuff. And Tanner, again, is an expert. So yeah, definitely reach out to him on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's pricing or just general information, he'll be able to help you out there.
Yep. Well, you're not going to hear us talking about the conference yet. We nailed that one this year. But one thing, summer's upon us, and our guys have been on the road visiting customers. But one thing that we want to do, we are taking a very proactive approach of wanting to go out and highlight customers, and more importantly, get photos and video that we can share and tell those stories. It's encouraging to us, and it's encouraging others out there to really see the stories of people in the business. Yep. So yeah, if you would like, or I guess I'm asking, we would like to come out and meet you all and take some photos and take some video. If you would be willing to do that, will you reach out to us?
Yeah, if you can reach out to us at podcast@bulkloads.com, or if you just simply comment down below on the YouTube channel, if you watch us on there, Joe will get in contact with you and we'll set up a time. We're very flexible on when we want to come out there and stuff. But yeah, we really want to highlight your company.
A couple of reasons why I would suggest this. Number one, we want to see the story and tell it to our audience, but our audience are your customers. And if you allow us to share your story and share that is free advertising for you to get out there, man. Your network is your net worth. You heard me say it at the conference, but allowing us to highlight you, it gets it out there for people to see who you are. They see your heart. They see the business that you're in. So that's just one of many reasons why I would encourage you to reach out to us and let us come out there and film. I know everybody's busy. You're on the road. We can schedule around that.
Yep.
Like we've done videos where we meet somebody at a truck stop parking lot and we film it there. And it's not a long time.
Yep.
Usually 30 to 40, maybe an hour tops. But yeah, it would be just some photos of you and your truck, a little bit of telling your story, maybe getting some action photos with the drone. But again, reach out, podcast@bulkloads.com, or call us. Man, we would love to get something scheduled.
Yep.
We would love to feature you.
Jared, before we get out of here, speaking of summer, we're working on summer t-shirts right now.
Oh yeah.
So, every year we try to do a different summer t-shirt with a couple different themes. We've done the Farmers Grow It, Truckers Move It in the past. This year, we really want to focus on end dumps, and you've kind of tasked
give
Joe.
the end dumps love.
You've kind of tasked Joe to create a really cool design, and we want to feature one of our members out there.
Truck.
An actual truck. So if you have a cool photo of your truck and trailer, specifically end dumps, but we'll take a look at all of them. But if you have an end dump, specifically like raised in the air, unloading grain, unloading whatever, or loading, send it to us, comment on YouTube, or just send it to us, podcast@bulkloads.com, or you can go to our Facebook, message us on there, or just comment on one of our posts with that photo, and we'll be able to review it, and we might be able to pick you to be on a shirt.
I love all of our shirts, but I love those summer shirts. Actually, I was just wearing one the other day. I was wearing the Farmers Grow It, Truckers Move It one. And yeah, they're just super fun shirts that you can wear out at, summer family gatherings, the fairs, rodeos, truck pulls, all that good stuff, and represent. So yeah, make sure and do that. And how cool would it be to have your truck on the shirt that's going to get printed probably 2,000 to 3,000 times.
Yeah, exactly.
And broadcast. So yeah, don't make sure and send that in. Send us an in-dump one. We want to see that in-dump in action. I want to see one hoisted up.
Yeah. Also, speaking of summer, we have a lot of truck shows and farm shows that we are trying to make this year. We'll have team members going to all kinds of them. This next one coming up May 10th through the 11th, Red Dirt Showdown in Oklahoma. It's a truck show out there. We will have some team members stopping by there. They'll be spend a couple days, and we'll take swag. We'll bring the camera. We want to meet you and even take you out for dinner. But you got to let us know that you'll be there. So if you can, email us or put on the forum, however you can, let us know that you will be there, and we'd love to schedule a time to meet up with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for always listening to BulkLoads Podcast. We always want to close in prayer. If you did come to the conference, you know that that's a big part of why we, who we serve, and we serve a big God, and we want to give him the praise and glory. So if you don't mind at this time, we'll go ahead and pray. Tyler, you want to close this?
Lord, we come to you today. Just thank you and praise you, Lord. We just want to thank you for all your many blessings. And Lord, we know that all that we have today is not because of our doings, Lord, but because of your blessings. Lord, we just want to thank you for the past couple of weeks and having our conference, being able to bring down over 500 different companies, guys from all over in the agriculture trucking space, Lord, to be able to come together and really just communicate and work on this industry and focus on leadership in our home and professionally, Lord. We ask that you just bless all those who are traveling this week or over the road. Lord, we ask that if there's any hardships that people are going through, financial crisis or anything, any kind of issues with family or relationships, Lord, we ask that you just give those people the strength and the courage to keep pushing on, Lord. We ask that they look to you in these times, Lord, and we ask that you just be with them in their heart, Lord. We love you and we thank you. Amen.
Amen. We also, before I close out of here, we do have a prayer email, prayer@bulkloads.com. We got one last week. Again, we keep it anonymous, but it was someone that was struggling financially for their business, and they're really at a mercy. Man, we are praying for you out there, rest assured. But if you do have a prayer request, send it to prayer@bulkloads.com. We will bring those in, and we have a team that prays over them. So awesome. Well, thank you as always for listening to the BulkLoads Podcast. If you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. I talked to many at the conference that listen to this week in, week out. If you are listening to this, do me a favor, hit subscribe, or please share this with others that can benefit from this podcast. Thank you so much. And as always, God bless.